live and it's real. Kristina's got the news, gonna tell you the deal. Grab your
gonna tell you the
questions
deal.
now. Get ready to learn from houses
My theme
to
song.
land. Lots of things to discern.
I gotta shorten this thing. It's too
Welcome
long.
to the live stream where dreams
Way too
come
long.
alive.
Welcome to Sunday's live stream. We're going to be talking about home prices are coming down in a lot of areas, a lot more than they were even a month ago. We're also going to be talking about interest rates because, thank goodness, for the last week, interest rates have been ticking downwards. We're going to be We're going to be using two articles to support what I'm saying, to talk over it, but I want to check in with everybody to see where they're coming in from. We've got 41 people on there, and I want to know where you're listening in from. So, yay! Hi, Skippity 0411. He says finally, or she. Talk about Ninja says start the program. We're here. They were here a couple of minutes early, so I was trying to get out. I got on time. I'm in on time. Right at 3:30. I always start at. Eric the Blue says, happy Sunday from freshly cool Denver, Colorado. We actually have less humidity, still 95 degrees, but it feels better because it isn't feeling like a wet, hot blanket, like Louisiana's known for their humidity. I don't know if you know that, but yeah. Hi, Lomar. Local governments in DFW are starting to whine that property taxes need to be increased since home market values remained stagnant for over the last quarter. Oh, isn't that something? Oh, do you remember like back in the day? You're old enough to remember this. Back in the day, in when the last crash happened, home prices like tanked and they were freaking out because of property taxes in a lot of areas, and they were trying to figure out how to increase them because property values were coming down so much. Well, that didn't work out the way they wanted to. In my area, they actually went down just a little bit, not enough for me to celebrate and have a party, that's for sure. But they ended up coming right back up the next year and every year since then. So Swanee, Georgia. I've never been to Swanee, Sue. You're in DC Metro. Hello from Virginia. Hello from Rhode Island. I love me some Rhode Island. Orlando, Florida. We got, who else we got in the house? We got Arizona. Howdy from Seattle. I heard the weather there is wonderful. Hi from Charlotte, North Carolina. Dallas, Texas. Ooh, don't mess with Texas. It's 299K and cloudy in November. St. John's, Florida. Did it flood over there in St. John's? I've been watching all these videos in Sarasota with all the flooding. I empathize because we had that big time here. Hello, Clark the Realtor and moderator extraordinaire. We got San Francisco in the house. Who else we got? We got Kent, Ohio. Prices have not dropped. Hello from West Kentucky. Hello from Seal Beach, California. Northeast Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta. Warwick, Rhode Island. North Carolina. Love me some North Carolina. I love Asheville, North Carolina. I haven't been there in years. I heard it's changed a lot, but when I used to go visit, when my husband and I were first married, was our little honeymooning spot whenever I think we had kids. Maybe we just had children, and that's where we go, is Asheville, North Carolina.
No kids at the time.
No kids at the time. Eddie's popping in. Yeah. Dallas, Oregon. I didn't know there was a Dallas, Oregon. San Diego, House Hacker 619. Welcome. What's up? Putnam to New York. New Zealand. Wow, you're watching real estate. I want to know, how's the real estate market in New Zealand? Are you having all these crazy things happen? Are home prices going nuts there? Are you having institutional investors buying up all the smaller homes? Do you have an Airbnb problem? Palm Beach, County, Florida. Hi, welcome. Hi from Connecticut. I want to know, pull up the thing about Airbnb. I know we're talking about interest rates, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but this just popped in my head. So apparently Airbnbs are tanking. Like they're hitting the Airbnb corporation is not doing as well as it used to. I have a theory about this, and I'm going to ask you in the chat what your theory is about Airbnb. I know this wasn't supposed to be about Airbnb, but we're going to get to the other articles in just a minute. I rented an Airbnb last year. Thank God I didn't have all these rules. But I've been to Airbnbs that have like a ton of rules where they're like, well, you can't use the clothes washing machine, and make sure that, you know, you empty out the trash and fold up the towels and strip the sheets. And you had to do all these like steps in order to leave the Airbnb in the quality they wanted to. But, you know, like you go to a hotel, you stay there, you might pile up the dirty towels and call it a day. We've been to one Airbnb that didn't even have towels. We actually had to go and get towels because there was no towels there. Total lunacy. I don't know. Like, I think the whole thing with the Airbnbs, they're just not like what they used to be. When you think Airbnb, you're thinking somebody's house, they're opening it up to you. You use the facility, you leave it, you know, halfway decent, and then you leave. But some of these hosts have gotten out of control, and it's like, why don't you just stay at a hotel and you get a pool and you don't have to worry about this nonsense? So, and not only that, people just don't have the money for Airbnbs like they used to. So they're seeing a decline in profits. And if you could pull up an article about that, I would greatly appreciate that. Southern Florida. All right, I'm going to go look in the chat myself. Alaska, Washington. Asheville, North Carolina in 10 days for a funeral. Ooh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry for your loss. Funerals are never fun. Nope. Don't forget to hit the like button, somebody said. All right, here we go. I'm going to put this up here. In our area, only 20 houses on the market, 800-ish of the houses in the neighborhood section next to a golf course. Prices are 600 to 700-ish. I'm assuming you're saying 600 to 700,000, not just $600 and $700. You know, that'd be great. If you find a house for $600, I would literally be so elated if I could find a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for like $135,000. I mean, I'm wishful thinking unless I like move to a very rural area, but I think about, you know, my husband and I's first house, and we were sweating bullets because it was like at 7.5%, but it was $135,000. We got an FHA loan, and I'm like, if those homes were available today, there would be more people in houses. You know, I mean, not saying that we don't have enough people in houses. I'm just saying if that was the market that we were in, people wouldn't be, you know, upset on how incredibly expensive it is to live because shelter would be so affordable. And then of course, if it was like that, the rents would be lower too. So anyways, that's in my utopia. That's in my utopia. Eddie, were you able to find an article about that Airbnb losing money? If not, I can pull it up myself. Because I was watching it. It was like a news article. I saw a video on it. I don't know where Eddie is.
I was not able to.
Okay, I'm going to pull it up since Eddie can't find it. He's not in the real estate norms like I am. So Airbnb losing profits. We're just going to go ahead and go to the news. Now I think I'm like losing my mind. Maybe I dreamt this. I could have sworn it was like MSNBC. Hold on. I'm going to show you. All right. Maybe I'm making this up. I swear to you, I think I saw this. All right. I'm going to show you the article list here. So I just put Airbnb losing profits. Maybe if I'm more specific. Oh, here it is. AP News. Airbnb loses $349 million on Italian tax despite post revenue gains, sees strong demand ahead. When was this? Was this in February? No, this was a recent article. Let me do sort by relevance in the past. I'm going to do the past month. Okay. Airbnb's second quarter profit fell 15% despite revenue rising 11% on stronger bookings. Airbnb says its profit fell 15% in the second quarter from a year earlier as the higher income taxes and short-term rental giants bottom line even as bookings revenue rose. The profits fell short in Wall Street's expectations, and Airbnb's stock tumbled 16% after market trading. The San Francisco-based company reported on Tuesday net income of $555 million, or 86 cents per share for 3 months ending in June 30th. Yeah. Well, I just don't see that Airbnb is going to last forever. That's my my crystal ball prediction. They're going to have to do a lot of revamping, and they're going to have to start looking into these hosts a little bit more. I think that's the problem. Some of these hosts have gotten absolutely insane. And I know that sometimes it's a reason because, you have a bachelor party that came in and did some wild stuff, or a bachelorette party for that matter. I'm not saying the guests are always perfect, but sometimes the hosts are really wild. One of them was like, there was a charge for everything you used in the house. It was like a pool table. Like if you used the pool table, you had to pay like a $15 extra. And if anything was missing, like a ball or something, you had to pay $30. And then the lady was like, you use the pool table. She's like, we did not. And she's like, oh, well, the balls were moved. And she's like, maybe my son picked up the ball. He's 3. And they're like, she's like, well, that's using the pool table. So that's why you got charged that. That's dumb. That's dumb. So anyways, all right, let's get into the real reason we're here. Let's talk about the interest rates, Eddie, because they're coming down. I don't know if I thought on Wednesday the Fed was going to come down about 3%. I mean, not 3%. Forgive me. I thought they were going to go down and drop the rates on Wednesday because of what's happened with the stock market. Stock market ended up bouncing back. They did not drop rates. I was wrong. I will admit it. Kristina was wrong. But I thought because if it continued the way it was, and I still think if it kept tumbling on Tuesday, on Wednesday, I bet you they would have dropped it. Whatever. They didn't. But they will in September. They're going to drop rates. So buyers catch a break as home prices fell the most in 2 years. So this is good news if you're looking, because interest rates are coming down and so are home prices. Home prices are being cut at its fastest pace in 2 years. The share of home listings that saw a price cut rose 18.9% in July, up from 3.4% last year. Demand is cooling as buyers wait for mortgage rates to ease. Home buyers are finally seeing the housing market shift in their favor, with home prices being slashed at the fastest pace in 2 years, according to Realtor.com. The share of available listings saw a price cut, which, we already went through all that. Those cuts have helped push down home prices across the country, with the median U.S. home price dropping $445,000 to $439,950. And in your monthly mortgage payment, that would make, pennies difference. Pennies difference if the interest rates remain the same. Price cuts have largely been driven by lower demand, elevating some of the imbalances that pushed prices to the record highs over the past year. First, rates remained higher than expected, which means that there's less buyer activity. Second, the prospect of lower mortgage rates coming this fall may have induced some buyers to wait. This combo has led sellers to lower their prices in order to attract more buyers. Well, yeah, duh. But this isn't true of every area. This is talking about the housing market as a whole in the United States. There are plenty of areas in the United States that still are seeing increases in home prices, while other areas are, sinking like a ship. All right, let's scroll down a bit. My love, Eddie Teddy, Eddie Spaghetti. All right. 30-year fixed rate mortgage dipped last week, hovering over 6.7%. Buyers, though, are expecting rates to cool even more, especially as the Fed looks to cut the rates in September. What do you know? I just said that. Among the metro areas tracked by Realtor.com, 47 out of the 50 saw the share of homes with the price cuts increase over the year. Yep. Yep. Cities in the Sun Belt appeared to be dominant overall for a share of price cuts. Tampa, Florida had the largest increase in price reductions over the past year. And if I'm going to predict why, it's because of insurance. With 9.7% of homes on the market getting a cut in July, it was followed by Charlotte, North Carolina, and Phoenix, where 9.5% and 9.4% of the homes on the market got a price cut, respectively. These prices where sellers have had a good run over the past few years with rising prices, but the effects of the higher rates fully setting in, sellers have to come back down to earth with the price expectations to be added. Yep. Some real estate commenters calling for the more extreme price drop in the Sun Belt, giving in the steep increases in the region during the pandemic. Metro areas could see as much as a 15% drop in home prices. I don't know where they're getting that number from. One forecaster previously told Business Insider, pointing to the signs that the supply in the region was on track to outpace demand. And I've said this many, 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 many times on this live stream. If you live in an area that happens to have a lot of new construction, then you're going to see the most significant amounts of price reductions because they're increasing the supply of homes. If you happen to live in an area that has a pause on new home construction, or you're not seeing a lot of new construction, or the only new construction you're seeing is build to rent, most likely you're not going to see the biggest decreases in home prices. That's just a given because the supply is more limited. The other thing I think everybody needs to pay attention to, and I talked about this last week, we have to still consider people and their jobs. If the jobs market continues to go the way it went the last time that report came out, which is more and more people aren't able to find a job, then you're going to see a lot more houses hit at the market because a lot of people that live in homes can't afford the mortgage if they don't have a job. That ripple effect takes time. So if you're paying attention now and you're seeing more and more of those job numbers getting worse and worse and worse, it takes months before you ever see those houses hit the market. But you're playing a game, right? Who's to say that once, those houses finally do hit the market in whatever shape, fashion, short sales or whatever, those same houses are going to have a really good interest rate. You don't know. So if you're in the market for buying a house, make sure you understand all your numbers, find out what your number is to find an affordable home and stick with that number. And that way you can find a house. Sometimes when you're sitting there trying to time the market, which everybody does, you miss out on the best opportunities. I'm not saying don't try to find the best price for a house. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is don't talk yourself out of something that you find that's really great for you and your family and it's right in the price range, hoping that maybe the interest rates might go down another 2 or 3 points. That's all I'm saying. So something has to give soon. You're right, Clark, the realtor. You are correct. And the thing is that, I've wanted this for you as home buyers for a long time. The way that home prices had to come down is always the most unfortunate thing because there's people behind those numbers. I don't want sellers to have to lose their homes. I think that is awful. I lived through the last, housing crash. To sit at somebody's table as they're losing their home and having to work with them because their bank is, all over them. They've lost their job and now they're going to lose their home and they don't know what to do with their families and everything. It is utterly heartbreaking. And I never want to see that. I always like a very fair, balanced market. And but these home prices are ridiculous and we can't build our way out of it. They are put too much regulation, too much red tape in front of home builders to build more affordable homes. The cost that it takes just to even get a house built is ridiculous. And I'm not talking about the actual building itself. It's the cost of the land to make sure that it's ready for houses. That part of it is the most expensive part. Having to develop that piece of property to make, the right sewer, the roads, all the red tape with that, and all the meetings you have to have, and approvals and permitting, and before even a house is scraped, is ridiculously expensive. And that's what adds to the cost of the house in the first place. Even if you build them right on top of each other with like this much left between it, it has not made it conducive to make more affordable housing. So we're in a weird situation. I want people to be able to find an affordable home, but I don't want people to have to lose their home to get that, anyways. I don't see it shifting in Connecticut. Yeah. But, I don't see a lot of like new construction in Connecticut either. Like I was just in Connecticut and I didn't see a lot of new construction going on. I mean, it could have been where I was at, but like even some of the rural areas, I've noticed that like the more rural you get, most people have bigger pieces of land, right? Um, uh, and y'all have really high taxes too, like high property taxes. So I just don't see that becoming a big focal point for like a lot of new construction. Y'all don't have a lot of land out there to build on. So, Ark says, that was my question. Please, do you think house prices, do you think house price go higher? My area, no inventory, high price still. Please and thank you. Do you think my neighbor just sold his house in 6 days over market? Well, I mean, again, that's going to be dependent on your area. Every housing market, and I say this, I know that anybody that's watched us on a regular hears me say this, and I sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry, but it's just the truth. Every housing market is completely different from one another. I'm literally just miles away from New Orleans, and the housing market in Baton Rouge is completely different than the housing market in New Orleans. Two totally different. I mean, like it is completely different. The way that real estate agents engage with each other, the builders, everything is completely different. And you wouldn't think that because I mean, we're not that far away from each other. You have to really pay attention to the pulse of your specific area and neighborhood and what's going on. The best way you can do that is you can sign up for any real estate agent's newsletter. They have tons of them. And, just ask to be on their newsletter so you can find out what the numbers are in your area. Like how many houses have sold? How many days have they been on the market? Did they sell under or over market value? If you're wanting to sell your house, you can call any real estate agent and ask them for a CMA. That is free to you. Nobody's charging you to do a CMA. It only takes a real estate agent maybe 30, 45 minutes to put one of those together at the most. That's if they're going all the way through a detailed, a CMA. But they put that together and they can send that over to you in an email, and you can let you know exactly pretty close to what your house should be listed for or what it would be sold for. And it's got a ton of information in there as well. Just understand what's going on. And I wouldn't, if you're kind of shopping around for a real estate agent, ask for that CMA from several different ones. So that way you can compare their numbers and see where they're getting their comps from. This is part of the interview process. Don't hire the first real estate agent you talk to. Do not. I mean, the first one might be the one you hire, but just talk to several so you know what you're in for. So Wes wants to say hi to all the moderators. Yeah, we have 3 of them in here today. I saw Debbie Brady's in here, and Clark the Realtor, and I saw Lawnmower's in here too. That's our moderators, making sure that the chat stays clean because, some people get a little wild, a little scrappy in the comment section, and Kristina does not put up with that. Menami. This is an interesting screen name. Menami 1979. I hope I said that right. In Virginia is over 300K in the middle of nowhere. Home prices in a lot of areas in the middle of nowhere are shocking. like I said, I was just in Connecticut and it was in a more rural area. And I was like, well, how much is this house? Oh, it was probably about 650,000. I was like, shocked. I didn't realize how, like even in rural areas that it could be that inflated. It was surprising. TH says the only reason why interest rates are dropping is because it's close to the elections in November. It's the same every 4 years. Fuel prices, home, auto loan interests, all nearly always drop near elections. Yeah, true. I've said that on the stream before, no doubt about it. It happens. True statement. True statement. Oh, we got another one. It says the average rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage drops to 6.47%, the lowest level in more than a year. This is from the AP. The average 30-year mortgage fell this week to its lowest level in more than a year. Welcome affordability boost for prospective home shoppers and homeowners looking to refinance their home loan at a lower rate. I'm going to ask you guys all this. Okay. You heard what the home prices were. Almost $450,000 for the median price home, for a median price home, $450,000. That means like the smack dab in the middle, right? Do you think that even with the interest rates at 6.75% or 6.4%, whatever, do you still think that that makes a home affordable? This is where I always say that these type of articles gaslight people because they're like, oh, affordability's back. It's back. Look, the interest rates are down. Yeah, that makes your monthly payment a little bit less. But most people, a good majority of the United States, cannot afford a house at $450,000. Call me crazy. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but in my head, I'm thinking of people that are trying to buy their first home, and most of them don't have $450,000 in their back pocket, or even have that income to support a $450,000 house when the interest rates are at 6.4%. Like not even 2 years ago, if you said the interest rates at 6.4%, people would have like lost their top because they were so used to the threes and the fours. It says the rate fell from 6.47% to 6.3 from 6.73 last week. Mortgage buyer Freddie Mac said Thursday. A year ago, the average was 6.96%. This is the second straight weekly drop of the average rate. Now it's been at its lowest since mid-May last year, when it was 6.39. Borrowing costs for a 15-year rate mortgage, popular with homeowners refinancing their homes, also fell this week, pulling the average rate down to 5.63%. So if you want a 15-year mortgage, it's at 5.63%. A year ago, the average was 6.34%, according to Freddie Mac. The decline in mortgage rates does increase prospective homebuyers' purchasing power and should begin to pique their interest in making the move, Freddie Mac's chief economist said. Additionally, this drop in rates is also providing some existing homeowners to the opportunity to refinance. I'm telling you what, there's a lot of people that got those interest rates when they were like at 2 and 3. They're not giving those up for nothing. Some people said, I am going to be buried in my house. I saw somebody that had said, I have a 2.5% interest rate. I'm going to get buried in this house. I'm going to live in it to the day I die. Where did my article go? Or do you want to put questions on the screen, Eddie? Sometimes I don't know what he's doing back there. He's in a different room. I don't know what he's wielding over there. After jumping up to the 23-year high of 7.7% in October, the average rate of a 30-year fixed rate mortgage has mostly hovered around 7% this year, but more than doubled what it was 3 years ago. Yeah, more than doubled. That is for sure. But here's the interesting part. Sales of previously occupied U.S. homes fell in June for the fourth month in a row. And sales of new single-family homes also fell last month to the slowest annual pace since November. Rates have eased in recent weeks as signs of waning inflation and cooling job market have raised expectations that the Federal Reserve will cut its benchmark interest rate next month for the first time in 4 years. Mortgage rates are influenced by several factors, including the bond market reacts to the central bank's interest policies decisions. That can move the trajectory of the 10-year yield, which lenders use as a guide to pricing home loans. Yep, that's the case. That's what happens. When that stock market hit into a free for all on Friday, and it looked like on Monday it was even looking worse. I'm like, the only plus to this is if you're a home buyer and you hadn't locked in your rate yet, you won. You won a lot. I mean, that adds like another couple $100 off your mortgage payment, depending on your loan amount. But that can make all the difference in the world. I mean, I would like a little extra $200 for groceries, for goodness sakes. I always whine about this. Forgive me, but I just spent $275 on nothing. Like, I went to the grocery store with my daughter. We picked up school supplies. I picked up a little bit of cleaning supplies, and I got up there. And I mean, it was a total of those little plastic bags, 6 bags. And when she told me the price, I was like, I thought at max it was going to be like $150. And when she said $275, I was like, what in the world is going on? So then I went home and started like, I don't know what my problem is, but I started going in. I'm like, how much should this be on Amazon? How much would this be? I probably could have saved another $40 if I had shopped in 3 different places. But then you would have spent the gas money, and I don't know. Anyways, prices are ridiculous for food. You need to make over $150K for a fixer-upper or starter house. There's no lie. There is no lie there. There was a woman that I like going on the TikTok, but she was showing all of her monthly bills. She makes $70,000 a year. It's just her and her little dog. She was showing how much her rent is, and then she was showing how much it would cost her in 2019 and how much it costs today. Then she showed all of her utilities. Now how much her insurance has gone up on her car, and how much, like, all these things. And then like what she's paying on groceries. She's like, I am barely making it after I pay all of my bills on $70,000. She's like, it is not a budgeting problem. You can see it. It's in black and white. And I was like, most of her costs were electricity, rent, and insurances. That's like, and you can't live without those things. So anyways, just stop eating avocados, don't you know? Speaking of avocados, they are expensive, but if you go to a place called Ideal Market, you can get like a whole bunch of them. You get for like 2 for $1. Yeah, that is one of those like tropes that people say, like, these kids just need to know how to stop eating avocado toast and drinking those fancy coffees, and then they can afford things. I'm like, that's not it. There's more to it than that, you know. There's a lot of nuance to what goes on in people's lives, and it isn't their avocado toast eating. Muddy Sneaker says, I make 125 and I can barely afford my apartment. Most people are spending most of their income on shelter. And it's been proven like in many statistics, many articles, Statistica, like any company that gauges that, they all have said most Americans are spending the majority of their paychecks on lodging, like shelter, where they live. It's not just you, it's everywhere. And then you add the food costs. I know that I'm paying like double what I paid in 2019 for food. And then they've shrunk how much is in packaging. So like if you get a box of cereal that used to be like 22 ounces in 2019, now it's 18. And then they still say it's family size. No, it's not. No, it's not. But like, people have checked out. They've said, okay, look, food's too expensive. You know, rent is too expensive. So I'm going to not, spend as much. I'm going to stay at home, drink water, and not eat my avocado toast. And like a lot of these big chain companies that used to be the filler food for people like McDonald's are seeing the repercussions of that pricing that they have affected people. Like they're seeing a lot of their earnings reports come down. And, as they should. They were price gouging us during the pandemic. A lot of people were in a bad situation, or none of us had our brains screwed on right during that time. And they took advantage of us, and they jacked up their prices as much as they could just because they could. And they could easily say, oh, it's because of, we are having problems with all the trade and like things aren't coming to the ports and we're just not getting everything that we need. And that's what's going on. No, they're not. No, they're not. So anyways, something's going to give. My last grocery bill was $165 for 4 bags. Isn't that nauseating? It's so bad that like I was looking for like hamburger meat of all things. And like, I have to sit there and like, look at everything and go, you know what? I'm not going to buy it from this grocery store. I have to go down the street and go to another grocery store because I know it's on sale. So every week, my daughter and I, this is no joke, we pull up the sale papers from all the grocery stores and we find out who's having the sales on meats, who's having the sales on other things. And then we make our grocery list according to that. So we go to 3 different grocery stores in order to survive for the week. We're not destitute. Let me just put it that way. I'm not saying that, but I'm not unwilling to pay a lot of the prices that have been thrown at me. And if somebody jokes about it because I did this thing with mayonnaise. So they were trying to charge like $13 for freaking mayonnaise. I'm like, I am not buying that. Forget it. West said, remember the Boston Tea Party? We need property tax revolt. Call it no property tax tea party. You know what, though? We get taxed for everything. We get property tax. Before we even get our check, we earn this money. Then the government takes their tax on top of it. Then we go to the grocery store. Some of us have to pay tax on our groceries. Some states don't do that, but a lot of states do. We have that. Then we go home to our house that's being taxed. When we drove in a car that was taxed when we bought it, but our money was already taxed. We're taxed to death. We're always being taxed. So now, super chat. Thank you. What happened to no taxation without representation? I feel a little less represented with all the taxes I've paid. I don't know about you. Anyways, prices are not dropping in Atlanta. House down the block just went up from $440 to $750 after it was remodeled. Wow. I wonder how long it's going to be on the market. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. Thank you, Z Corp Alpha. Atlanta's always been a hot spot. Even during the collapse of the housing market across the country, home prices remained flat. Some areas were more affected than others, but Atlanta has always been an area that is constantly growing. When I was growing up there, there was like Alpharetta was farmland, and now it's like this huge metropolis, right? It's an ever expanding city. So I can't, even if home prices were to see some change in the Atlanta area, I can't see it being really significant. There would have to be a massive financial collapse for it to be a massive change in home prices in the Atlanta area and surrounding. It's just too big. Never stop eating avocados. It's superfood. Yes. I like me some avocados. My favorite is avocado with salt and pepper and a little bit of lemon. And then if you mash that up and then put some Cavender's Greek seasoning on top of that, delicious. Delicious. I love it. I like some guacamole too. Toast and coffee is $150 a month if you do it every day, every work day. Toast and coffee is $150 a month if you do it every work day. Well, if you really think about it, right? So if you remember whenever all these companies were like, return to office, and all the employees were like, I don't want to return to office because, it's wear and tear on your car. You have to fill it up with gas. You have to spend an extra 2 hours a day just to get prepared for work. And what I mean by that is you got to get up in the morning early, right? You got to get up an hour early before you have to go to work. Then you have a half hour driving to work. Then you have another half hour driving home. So that you're adding another 2 hours to your day just because you had to go travel into the office. So if you think about that, that might end up adding up to $150 a week if you're going into work, right? Because a lot of times people don't have time to like fix their own lunches and everything. So then they get lunch out and it could be 150 a week. Genesis says there are many reasons for our current situation. I'm a capitalist, but we are experiencing an out of control capitalism, unchecked. I will say unchecked. Everything in excess becomes a problematic, but how do you correct that? Policy change. That's how you correct that. Policy change. That's the way you correct it. Some things have been unregulated for so long, and there's been no checks and balances. That's what I'll say. I'm not getting political. I'm just telling you that's just the way things are. And like you said, capitalism's great when it works for everybody, but it hasn't been working for a lot of people, especially people that are lower income, for many, many years. And the only way to fix that is policy change. Leave it at that. Yep. Genesis is the inflation crisis is fake. Companies have claimed that they needed to raise prices because of an increase of cost of doing business, yet are posting record profits. Both can't be true. Amen. Amen. And like it's always these bigger companies, right? It's always like McDonald's, like, oh, the cost of doing business is so much more. The cost of labor is really, they always love to blame the labor too. And they always do that because they don't want to pay more than minimum wage to these workers. God forbid they have to pay more than minimum wage. It's the cost of labor. It's not us, it's the cost of labor. That's why we have to charge more. But that they're like, for that burger that they're making, that you eat, it's costing them, let's just say $1, but they're charging us, $6.50 because they're gaining all that profit back. And then so it's coming to bite them. The chickens have come to roost, and now they're like, why isn't anybody buying anything? Well, you've squeezed us to death. If you look at credit cards right now, credit cards are people, I think it's the highest credit card rate in a long time that people have been putting their life on credit cards because they have nothing left to pay. Like they have no money. They've squeezed everything out of them. They have no more savings left. That's gone, and like people say, well, we got too much money during the pandemic. That money has been gone for a long time. It has nothing to do with that. These people are tight. And so all they have left is credit cards. And now we're in credit card debt up to our eyeballs. Anyways, I see this comment a lot. So if you guys don't know what this is about, you will own nothing and be happy. So the World Economic Forum, run by many, many people, gets together and they're basically, trying to polish up utopia of this new world order. And one of the things they were saying is, the quote was, you will own nothing and be happy. That basically we will rent our lives, rent everything, and then we'll be happy. But all the things, they have just found new ways to just squeeze us. Like for instance, you buy an alarm system for your house and you're gonna self-service that, right? And then you have this app for your house for this alarm service. Well, all those features that you want for your alarm system, like where it notifies you on your phone, or you can watch the video on your phone. Well, that's another paid service. And then all those things that you got when you originally got that alarm system, which were free, now becomes another subscription paid service. And, it's very true of like Amazon and Prime Video and Netflix and all these, like we bought into it because we didn't want to watch commercials anymore. And now they're putting in commercials and they're like, the quality of the programming isn't any good. So now TV sucks. And these apps that we've downloaded and paid a monthly service to are starting to suck. and they're getting more expensive. Unchecked capitalism. That's all. Like somebody said earlier. It will all balance out. I just think that we've hit a blip in the road. The public won't take it for long. And whenever we've had enough and we stop spending money, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, come back. We didn't mean to. We're sorry. And then they fix it. Just got to, enough of us just got to get ticked off enough and turn off their services. And then they do a little backtracking, a little backpedaling. So we'll see what happens. The world is a crazy place. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. All you have to do is put the word question first and then followed by the question. It's just easier for Eddie, who's in the background, to find your comment if you just put that word question first. I wish I would have started this out explaining, because sometimes the people will watch this as a replay and not realize that it's not live anymore. So I always post this. It's always live from 3:30 to 4:30 Central Time. But after the fact, this is posted where you can watch it as a replay. If it's on the replay, please make sure to leave a comment below, and then I can see your comment and give you some engagement. But I can't see your questions or anything like that afterwards unless you put it in that comment section. Like somebody said, this was the worst video ever made. I'm like, well, it's not a video, it's a live stream. So, some people are new to YouTube, so I have to explain that every once in a while. All right, I saw a question come up. I don't know where Eddie is. You might have. All right, Eddie just got off from the airplane. And then on the way home in the airplane, no lie, his car broke down. He gets off the airplane. My daughter picks him up. They're pulling out of the airport, and then the car breaks down. All he wanted to do is get home. So Sly all day says, question. I looked up a property in my area that was removed from the listing. All the price adjustments have been removed. Is that legal? Well, that will depend on the MLS in your specific area. So all MLSs are different. And also, if it's on a national website, they're not required to leave that listing up there with all the information. Only the MLS and their rules, whatever they state, will have to be there. If you happen to know who the listing broker was for that specific house, you can call them and ask them about the listing. But if it's on a national site and it's just not there anymore, they have no ownership of that data. They have no ownership. Like if it's a realtor.com, Zillow.com, Trulia, any of those, they have no rights to that listing or the information in it. So they can do that. They can take it all off. This is the address of the listing. Oh, Eddie, you want to pull it up? Let's all take a look at this listing, see if it's there. Yeah, but if it's in the MLS and they say, and it wasn't there the next day, there could have been a mistake with it, or they're readjusting the listing. If they pull it off the market, there's nothing required for them to leave all the information about that house on any website. None. Let's see if Eddie can pull it up. I feel like Eddie's sleeping back there. What is he doing? What's wrong with him? And people always want to know what Eddie looks like. If you don't know, he looks like this. Don't lie. This is what he looks like. This is a bobblehead of my husband. He gave me for one Valentine's Day several years ago. So, all right. I'm since Eddie is I don't know where he's at. Maybe he got sick. I hope he's okay. Oh, here we go. He found it. All right, it's there. Did you you weren't able to find the house? Eddie wasn't able to find the house, I'm assuming. Nope. It wasn't on the MLS anymore. What you got, Eddie? You can talk. Oh, why do you keep kicking yourself off? I'm going to put you on here. All right. Were you not able to find the listing?
No, I was not.
Okay. All right. We looked for nothing. It's not there. Yeah. If they pulled it off, they pulled it off. There's nothing we can do about that. Yep. Moneybag 18 says, with so much red tape, is it even worth investing in real estate in today's market and find other alternates to invest more money? I live in SoCal. What would you suggest? First, I tell you to talk with a financial advisor, but I will always, and I've always said this, the richest people in the world, if you look at the top richest people in the world, a lot of them got their wealth through real estate. That's what I'll tell you. And a lot of them dumped a lot of money in real estate when the interest rates were low, because they know that it's a good asset to hold on to. I don't know what your like financial plans are with your money. I know that in California, the land development is super expensive. And the soonest you can have a brand new neighborhood from start to finish, like raw land to actual houses being built, it takes an average of 10 years. 10 years before you actually start building houses that can be sold because of the amount of red tape in California. You know, soil compaction tests, permitting, everything. And there you have the longest, as far as I know, which is 10 years. And that's an average amount. And I've talked to several real estate agents, and they're like, that's partially some of the reason why home prices are so high, because it takes so long for a developer to ever get to the point where they actually can build a house. So it's always a good idea to invest in real estate. I mean, always talk to a financial advisor first before listening to some silly chick with a YouTube channel. That's for sure. Hungley says, Kristina, what's going to happen to the younger generations if we're barely hanging on? Everything in, I mean, I'm going to be 52 this year. Everything's a pendulum, right? We swing from one direction to another. We have economies that go like this, and then they go like this, and then they swing back up again. I think this is just a blip in our history. And I think economies can work for younger generations again. They're smart. Like I'm very fortunate to have kids that are, one is 18 and the other one is 22. They have a good head on their shoulders, and they really think about things that I never thought about. You know, when I was in my 18 to 20, I was thinking about, when was the next club going to be open and how can I get there? You know, not that I ever used a fake ID or anything like that, you know, but the way that they think about their future is not how many people might at that time thought about their future. And I think they have a better understanding of how things work and how they can work in their favor. And I'm very optimistic for future generations. I know that's like weird to hear, you know, from people, but I am. I think that they're smarter than we give them credit for. And it's going to be really interesting to see what future they bring with them. I'm excited for them. I really am. Studio Blue Jay says, I currently live in West Michigan. I only make about $35K a year, but I didn't take out any loans in college. I guess it isn't realistic to want to own a home. I can't say it isn't realistic. There's so many videos on my channel about different ways you can find to get your foot in the door of the real estate ladder, right? They're like, you can start with just owning a piece of land. And as much as most people like poo-poo on the idea, you could start with just getting a small manufactured home or a small AUD or not AUD, ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit. And you could just start there, right? And then you can just build yourself up into eventually being able to build your own home, right? Everything starts somewhere. And I know a lot of financial investment people will say, Don't ever buy a manufactured home because, it's a car you sleep in. That's what Dave Ramsey said. And I say it's a stepping stone into real estate. You own something that you can use later on down the road. Let's say you're making $35,000 right now, and then later on down the road, you end up getting, promoted, and you start making more money, and you have this manufactured home. You've lived in it for 15 years, and you've actually saved enough for a down payment for a home that's even bigger. Take that piece of property that you already had purchased, that manufactured home on that land, and use that as a rental. And then now that's an income producing property. Now, so it was your stepping stone. So you didn't have to pay rent to a landlord. You were able to save money. And now in the future, you can use that as a rental property. Now it's making you money. Everything that you can own, live in for now as the most affordable way to live, look at it as something in the future you can use as a rental, as an income producing property. All hope is not lost with the real estate market as far as affordability. This too shall pass. Everybody under the sun will tell you these prices are unsustainable. They're just not going to be sustainable forever. There is going to be price adjustments across the board at some point. I don't think it's going to be 50% like some of these ding dongs keep saying, like, oh, we're going to see home prices crash 40, 50%. That is highly unlikely. And if you're hoping for that, you're going to be sitting on the sidelines for the rest of your life. We're never going to see the home prices drop 50%. It's just not going to happen. But I do see in the horizon that more and more people aren't going to be able to afford their payments if they don't have a job. And there is opportunities out there to buy foreclosures. So keep an eye on those markets as well. I don't think all hope is lost. That is for sure. Joe. I have a friend named Joe, and then I have another friend named Joe. And since they're friends together, I call one Joe the good-looking Joe. So you're just Joe. You're just Joe. Kristina, your 18 to 20-year-old likely envy you since you are a self-proclaimed social media influencer. No kid wants a real job. Do you want to go out and get a real job? Well, I've worked real jobs my whole life. But my kids, my one daughter is in school to do a very, very real job, and that's to teach. She's a history major. She's very good at it. She wants to do documentation for attorneys and with her history degree and teach. Very honorable, real job. And then my other daughter she wants to go to aerospace engineering. She's very, very brilliant when it comes to that kind of stuff. And her goal is to go to, I believe it's FSU. I could be wrong about this. Eddie will correct me. I think it's FSU because they have the
UCF.
UCF. Thank you, UCF, because they have the better aerospace engineering program. But in order for her to get there, she had to acquire even more credits, even though she already has her 2-year degree. So she's doing that now, and then she's going to go to FSU and get that degree. I just think they have a better vision than we give those kids credit for. And we have not pushed our kids to do anything. If anything, Eddie and I always joke because we're the biggest idiots under the sun. We are. And I'm like, how did these kids thank God our children raised us because they made us better people. That's for sure.
Actually, the last thing they want to do is be on YouTube or any social media.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not even allowed to take a picture of them and post them anywhere. They do not like that. You can see some very old videos of mine where my youngest daughter was in them, and she's super funny. She's hysterical. But that little like notoriety and fame was just enough for them. It was enough for them when they went to school going, I saw your mom's video and you were in it. That was perfectly good enough for them. And then they moved on. They have their own goals in life, and it wasn't from any influence that I gave. That's for sure. That's for darn sure. They're a lot smarter than we are. Who's on first? It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for popping in today. It says, question, what are your thoughts on this year's market conditions and the impact of children now returning to school? Should we anticipate any chances, or will the market behaviors remain the same? Or if you're talking about the real estate market, always right after this month, you're going to see a lot more houses that are sitting on the market for longer because school has started. But then at the same time, a lot of people start pulling their houses off the market at the end of October. And what happens at the end of October? You have Halloween, then you have Thanksgiving, and then you have Christmas. And then as February rolls around, you start seeing more houses hit the market. Those are normal, typical things that happen in the real estate market. You're going to see on all of these articles, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at all these listings that have hit the market. We're in for big trouble because all these houses have sat on the market for more than 100 days. You're going to see it. I promise you, because that's what they do. It's normal. This is typical. What happens if it didn't sell because it was overpriced during the summertime and they stay on the market? That's going to be on the market for over 100 days. Then they'll eventually pull their house off the market, or they're going to have a significant price adjustment, which probably should have happened back in, July when their real estate agent told them that. I think I'm interested to see how the media is going to spin more listings being for sale, and then how many listings are pulled after, so many people are pulling their houses off the market because they're not getting their prices. No, that's just typical market conditions. That's what happens. And during an election year too, those headlines always are very sensational. That's what gets people to click. That's for sure. Yeah. My lips are so chapped all the time. I'm like crusty. Ever since I hit 50, I'm always like, I feel chapped all the time. I'm like constantly slathering my face with moisturizer. Kenzie Hill says, question, is there a grassroots effort to get houses built that are smaller and affordable? If so, how does my community get connected and get laws changed? This is the most heartbreaking thing for me to explain to you, because this is what's happened to me since 2000. I don't even know when I started that. Was it 2017? Okay. So what I've learned about the affordable housing space when it comes to programs that are being funded or started up, and this is just my personal experience, that a lot of times they're programs by name only. They love to do a lot of fundraising. They like to do a lot of parties. They like to get their faces in the paper. But when it all comes down to being said and done, it takes a lot of people having to agree on things, and it becomes a big fight. If it was me and I was to start all over again, I would work with people that are not in the political space, but more in the building space when it comes to building affordable housing. If you're wanting to do something like that, I would find a local builder in your area that is interested in an affordable housing project and work with them to help them actually build the houses. Because if you do it backwards, it seems to be it never gets done. But if you have somebody that says, I have the ability to build it, I have the land to build it, I just need some subsidies or tax credits or something to get it done, then you could be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, and you could work together. And then that newspaper, then those galas, then that fundraising can happen. But don't do it backwards, because for some reason then it never gets done. But a lot of people get their name in the paper. Gregory Scanlon says, question, I'm retiring in about 3 years and heading north. How far in advance should I get pre-qualified? Obviously, prior to retiring. Thanks. About 6 months. About 6 months, I would say, is the longest I would, get pre-qualified. If you do it a year ahead of time, they're going to make you do it again anyway. Sometimes it's like even 3 months. But if you're wanting a good estimate, I'd say 6 months is fine. Sid Lucius says the dollar is losing buying power about 4% yearly. So home prices higher and wages are stagnant. True story. True story. That is 100% true. All right. I see that Muddy Sneakers has a question that came in. I don't know if where Eddie is on the question line. Sorry, my throat was dry. Just Headphone says, question, what is your prediction for the decrease in home prices this year? Well, that's going to be market specific, right? If you're asking me across the board, across the country, if we were going to look at it as a whole, the whole entire country, oh God, this is, don't mark this in stone, but I'm going to say like 2%, 2%, the whole entire country altogether, 2%. But yeah, that's my market. Still ballpark prediction. But about 2%. I'm not going to say any more than that. But then, like, if you were in Phoenix, Arizona, that 2% isn't going to be. It's going to be more than that. If you're in Austin, Texas, it's going to be more than that. Even San Antonio, Texas, it's going to be more than that. Tampa, Florida, is going to be more than that. Well, they have a lot of new construction, so it's really hard for me to give you a significant or like concrete answer of percentages because every market's going to be different, and it's very dependent on how much new construction is available in your area. If you are in the market of buying a house and you happen to live in an area that has a lot of new construction in it, those home builders are giving awesome like incentives. They're buying down your rate. They're giving you closing costs. They're covering the buyer's agent compensations. They're giving you upgrades. They're doing it all. So you can go ahead and squeeze those home builders. They squeeze the hell out of us during the pandemic. So you squeeze them for as much as that you want. Go ahead, stick it to them because some of them deserve it. A lot of them do. A lot of them do. Some of those builders were such jerks. I don't know. Do you guys remember this? Like during the pandemic, some home builders, the people would have contracts with them to build their house. They would sell their house. The house would be like halfway built. And they were like, oh yeah, sorry, by the way, now your house is $100,000 more than it was when we contracted you 90 days earlier. And these people are like, we can't get approved for $100,000 more. And they're like, too bad. Because builders contracts are not the same as the state contract. And they can do that. Builders contracts only protect the builder. They don't protect you as a home buyer. And so they can technically do whatever they want. So if they get a little bit stuck back to them right now, I'm not crying over it. That's for sure. Once I turned 50, I started pulling out my doctor's. I started pulling all my doctors. Oh, I started putting all my doctors' kids through college. Now, my dentist has made a mint from me. My doctors haven't made a mint off me, but my dentist, I have put his children through college. That's for sure. I don't even know. My teeth are a hot mess. I would love to like just rip them all out and start over. Why do we only get kids should not lose their teeth when they're little? Because you don't know what you're doing. You're a little kid. That's so gross. I think your first set of teeth should come in when you're like 20, because you make all those mistakes with your teeth when you're a little kid. Because you're like, I'm a little kid. I'm not gonna brush my teeth. You don't know what you're doing. Your little chubby hands can't get in there and clean those teeth, and then you lose those teeth, and then those permanent teeth come in. You're not responsible enough to take care of your teeth when you're 7, right? No. Your next set of teeth shouldn't come in until you're 20. I know that's not a real thing, but that's what I think in my brain sometimes. Muddy Sneaker 77 says, Kristina, did you read that talking heads are now saying that a 35 to 40% down payment is the new normal to afford a monthly mortgage, not 20% anymore? Well, that would be according to their incomes, right? So what they're saying is, in order to be able to afford the house that's at $450,000, if you take the average income, you would have to have 35 to 40% down, because that would make your monthly payments in line with the income that you have. That's why they're saying that. Now, like, it makes sense. There was a ratio that said, like, You shouldn't, 28% of your income should not go to, like, no more than that should go to housing. Now I think it's up to like 36% because that's what people are paying because of rent and mortgage payments and how much everything's increased. But like somebody said earlier, wages are stagnant. So I'm telling you, something's going to give. It can't last forever. You can't keep squeezing people because then they can't buy your crap anymore. You know, if you keep squeezing people, they can't buy your stuff anymore, and then the economy can't turn. So at some point, something's going to give. If you guys like this cup, there happens to be an affiliate link in my description. It's an Amazon link, and you get 2 of these cups. It holds a lot of hot tea. It holds a lot of hot tea. So, hello, Tina. My parents call me Tina. They do. They call me Tina. It says, question, what is the interest rate on a HELOC right now? I don't know. I would be lying if I told you what I don't know what the HELOC interest rate is. I know that a lot of people are having trouble getting a HELOC. A lot of the local banks that were doing HELOCs kind of pulled that product. Kind of makes you think, like, what do they know that we don't know? Yeah, but the HELOCs are still available. I don't know what the interest rate is though on those. And of course, just like anything, it depends on your credit score too. Even though I don't know what the rate is, doesn't matter. Still depends on your credit score. I do like me a good HELOC though. Everybody should have one. All right, here we go. Eddie, are you asleep? I think Eddie fell asleep. All right, here we go. I got one right here from MH08. I'm going to throw it on the screen, Eddie. MH08 says, question, but doesn't tea get cold before you finish it? I don't care. Yes, it does. My hot tea does get cold by the end of the hour. But normally, if it's just me and a hot cup of tea, it's hot at the beginning. And then by the time I get to here, it's just now getting cold. Yeah. But now it's cold. Right now it is. I don't care though. I'll drink it. I'll drink it when it's ice cold. I just like the way it tastes. I'm a teaaholic. Black hot tea. Yum, yum, yum. I like a very familiar to anybody that's British. I like a good PG Tips tea. That's what I drink. Proud Liberal 24 says, question, are people who are saying that the price is too high ever going to buy a house even if the prices go down? How do they evaluate when to buy? I think everybody looks at everything as how much is that payment, right? So in a lot of people's mind, they say, well, I can afford, I'm just going to give an example. I can afford $1,000. Right? I can afford $1,000. So if my payment was $1,000, tell me how much house I can buy where it makes my house payment only $1,000. That's how they determine it. Everybody's always payment driven, and that becomes very flexible in people's mind because I know from working with younger buyers or new buyers, they'll say they're determined to keep that price at $1,000, but then they're like, but I really like that house. That would make my payment $1,250. So, I mean, that's only $250 more. I'm going to get the house I really want. They'll do that a lot. But I mean, that's not way off base. It all comes down to the payment. How much is that monthly payment going to cost me? And that's the price I can afford. That's what it will give to get them to buy a house. In those more, what concerns me, and I always talk about this, I'm still very concerned with the amount of what I call Wall Street houses, institutional investors, private equity firms buying up as many houses as they can. And what they're doing is turning them into rental properties. And they used to say, well, oh, that's just in cities like Atlanta and everything. Oh, no, it's in your very smaller cities too. It's even, here in Baton Rouge, it's everywhere. And the more we continue to allow that to happen, the more that you're going to see less and less affordable housing for purchase being available. Builders can't build smaller, more affordable homes because it costs too much. And then the smaller homes that would be available, that would be older, that would be considered a fixer-upper, are being swallowed up by institutional investors in a lot of smaller cities. We need to do something about that. There's been some bills that have been thrown around, but every single one of those bills, every single one of them does not actually address the problem. The way that it's worded, it would literally do nothing. It was one of those things that said, oh, look, I got my name in the paper. Those bills, first of all, even if they were hit the House and the Senate floor, they wouldn't address the actual problem. It would just look good on people's resume. Like, look what I got passed, but it wouldn't do anything. I'm interested to see if somebody actually comes up with a bill that actually would address this. And I think a lot of that has to start with the local level. And then we need to start calling our local politicians to address it. And even as small as your HOA can make a difference, because you can make covenants in your HOA that says you can't have any more than, let's just say, 10 or 20% of rental properties in your neighborhood. And you can put a stop at that so that even if they try to buy more, the title companies, because they pull up the restrictions from your HOA that's required of the title process, they'll say, well, we can't sell you this house because it's not owner occupant, or you're buying it under an LLC. And, even in our, it doesn't have to be on a national level. It doesn't need to be on a state level. It doesn't need to be on a town level. It can be as little as your HOA putting a stop to as many institutional investors buying up the homes in your neighborhood, because that does affect your home prices. And I personally don't, this is entirely up to you, but I don't want institutional investors dictating the price of homes in my neighborhood, especially if they own 20% of that neighborhood, because they also they'll own 20% of the vote of what happens in that neighborhood. And they can switch all sorts of things that happen with your HOA bylaws that way too. Just saying. Who's on first says, given your location, has New Orleans successfully been in rebuild since Hurricane Katrina? Someone mentioned grassroots efforts. I recall Brad Pitt built homes. Any lessons to be learned there? Oh my God. So he pulled his name from that project. The people that were investing into that project weren't on the up and up. And the homes that were built under those I think they called it little pink houses. Those homes, the people that lived in them, they were leaking. They had all sorts of problems with them. They've since been rectified, but Brad Pitt had to pull himself from that project because the money that was given to it wasn't put in the purpose that it was intended to. Not all of New Orleans will ever be rebuilt the way it was before, as much as we wanted it to be. To this day, in some areas, you can find houses that still have the X, that they checked the house and, showed if they had any bodies on it or whatever. It's a shame. It's really a shame. And there's always going to be people that grift on other people's misfortunes in order to make a buck. I don't think Brad Pitt wanted that to be the case. He was involving himself because he felt like he was helping the community, in which he was. He was bringing in a lot of attention and a lot of money to it. He wasn't personally building those houses. But then when the organization that was building those houses wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, a lot of people lost a lot of money, and a lot of people didn't get the right houses that were promised to them, which sucks. I don't know. Question, is it worth working with an agent when you are purchasing a home from a family member? My grandmother is willing to sell me one of her homes for well below what it's worth. Just between me, you, and 415 other people, just go ahead and find a real estate attorney. Just go find a real estate attorney. It's between you and your grandma. You're working it out together. just hire a real estate attorney. You know, that's what I tell you to do. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. Proud Liberal 24 says, what do you think about formation of St. George City in Louisiana, separate from the distinct from Baton Rouge? That's interesting that you bring that up, because somebody else brought that up several weeks ago. So those of you in the audience that don't know this, there's an area of Baton Rouge that has higher priced homes, that has established their own like the fire department, and they pretty much have been run by their own city and everything. The part Baton Rouge wants it to be a part of them because they get a lot of tax dollars from them, but they want to be separate from it because they feel like they're not getting their money's worth out of them. So it ended up they were able to split. And I don't live in St. George. I applaud their efforts because it took a long time. So yeah, good on them. Good on them. Yep. I think anytime a community can get together and establish themselves separate from a bigger entity so they can govern themselves is always a good thing, because that means that you have community that's willing to work together. It's such a rare thing these days. Yep. Yeah, bad for Baton Rouge. Somebody said that. It was bad for Baton Rouge. It was. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's 100. We've been going for 1 hour and 21 minutes. We had 420 people watching. Thank you so much for spending the day with me. If you want to get a hold of me, you can always go to my website and type in KristinaSmallhorn.com and hit on one of the pink links, fill out the form, and I'll give you a call. I want to tell everybody at the top right there, you can see there's 4 PDFs. If you're interested in buying a piece of land or a piece of land with a manufactured home on it, those are spreadsheets that you can download and keep track of all the properties that you want to look at. So those PDFs are right there. Just click on them. They'll automatically download. There's no spam. There's no nothing in them. I don't want your email address for those. I know that you're just shopping for a piece of land. That's this there to help you. Again, if you need to get hold of me, just hit one of those pink links. If you want to listen to this as a podcast, or you want to share this with a friend that you thought this podcast was interesting, you want to share it, just go to anywhere you listen to your podcast, look for Kristina Smallhorn, Real Estate for Everyone, and share this episode. This episode will be on the podcast on Monday. That's when Eddie publishes it, because we got to wait for this to render, and then we got to upload it. There's no commercials or anything in there. We just upload this live stream as something that you can listen to as an audio. So thank you, Eddie, for doing that. Thank you to our moderators for keeping the chat clean. Thank you to the over 400 of you today spending your Sunday with me and sharing your questions about real estate. If there's anything next week that you specifically want to talk about, let me know, and we'll give it a little chitty chat, and I'll find some articles that we can talk over, and I can get your opinions. I love sharing my opinion with you, and I love getting your opinions about the real estate market, because it helps me think a little bit deeper when it comes to certain kinds of markets, because housing is different in every area. So I want to say thank you to all of you for spending your day with me. All right, everybody, have a great day. Yeah, somebody said my feet. My kids always say, take that picture down. You're showing your feet. There's creeps out there. I'm like, no one's going to look at my 51-year-old feet. No one cares. No one cares. My feet are old and crusty. I don't have young, pretty feet. Nobody cares. Not my opinion on the matter, but I love the hair color, Kristina. Super flattering. I lightened it. It was hot red, and I hated it, and so I did a little color remover on it. Thank you. I like my hair a lot better too. I appreciate you. All right, everybody. So long. Farewell. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out.